name is Joker Ishimaki. This is the 45th observance of Black August Memorial. We will be speaking about the culture of Black August and how it should be appropriately observed, and primarily how that culture will carry the vehicle of social change across the diaspora, utilizing Black August as its primary source. Today we're going to speak to Elder Comrade Fati Yero and our sister McKinney concerning Black August, some of its historical precedents, and how we can properly observe the commemoration on this 45th anniversary. This time I'd like to introduce both of our guests for this August 7th show. Fati, could you introduce yourself to the people?
I'm Fati Yero, and I'm here to do what I will.
Right on. Sister McKinney, please introduce yourselves to the people.
Hi, this is Sister McKinney, and I am here to contribute and fortunately provide some information, insight, and awareness to continue with BA 45 and just continuing to spread the information. Can't stop, won't stop.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Fantastic.
No further ado, let us get us into the second half of Fati's interview.
Here we go, starting with Fati Yero.
Black August is an aspirational program. Its regiment is designed for your development and transformation. You may be wondering, how can BA develop me? The answer is through its journal. The journal has helped me and others. Accordingly, keeping a BA journal is encouraged. It is suggested that you identify something you'd like to teach yourself, commit to working on it 2 or more hours throughout the observance, make daily entries in the journal relative to the goal and how much time you spent working towards it. As for a flea day fast and non-flea day semi-fast and your journal, it is more important what your decision is at the beginning of the day. That is, am I fasting, am I semi-fasting, than it is whether you eat before the evening meal. You're attempting to discipline your decision-making through the journal. Eating or not eating or anything else only indicates your personal struggle or triumph relative to the decision you made at the beginning of the day on whatever. The entries are just a gauge which allows the journal to be used for your personal evaluation. As such, it is an instrument of self-criticism designed to further your development. You need not worry about telling lies or claiming easy victories, for it is your account in your hand to be seen and evaluated by you.
All right, Fati, I have to admit that when I first heard about Black August, I didn't hear anything about the journals. Not that I should have, I'm just saying that I didn't. But it was only very recently that I understood that there were these journals and how important it was to Black August. And so I would love it if you would just talk a little bit more about that, because what the journals, like just from your own personal experience, what the journals meant for you.
Well, I said that I used the journals, for example, that they helped me, right? I used the journals to teach myself Swahili, and so I would take every day. I started off doing 5 words a day, right? So I would 5 the first day, I would do that 5, and I would test 10 the next day, do another 5 tests, 15 the day after that. And then, right alongside of it, we trying to use these words to be able to, communicate what we seen, heard, and thought in the area, an open area where we were, to have some degree of usalama as it pertained to our communication. This is 1978. So by the time we reached Pelican Bay, the little struggle about trying to discourage us and so forth as it pertained to Swahili had come. They wasn't like, these fools was talking some ugum bugum. It was like, we know what you know. So like they might say something, and to try to make you think that. Personally, I welcome that. I would always respond back to them in Swahili with what I knew they didn't know. Mm-hmm. so that would derange their sense of this and that. Then the first thing that really caught my attention was this guy. He's Hispanic. He doesn't speak Spanish or Swahili. And one day he told me, he said, man, I really like the rhythm of what y'all were talking about. So I don't know a damn thing, but I'm really on the serious side. Mm-hmm. We had got to the point to where we made our own alphabet, we made our own dictionaries, and we were well on our way to having our own dialect until they came and not only confiscated our material, they moved us away from one another. Mm-hmm. They couldn't get the Swahili out of us, but they could interrupt the development that would have occurred had we stayed in proximity of one another and continued to vibe one off the other, because steel sharpens steel, Mm-hmm. So, in that regard, they, interrupted that development, the further development, rather, as it pertains to that thing. Well, insofar as it pertains to the journal, though, mm-hmm. that could be done on any number of things, and you should appreciate it in the sense that the things that you don't know, that you think you know. So you might come up against something and you believe that you know this, that, and another about it, but truth be told, all you have been is indoctrinated into a particular point of view, and you really don't know half of nothing about what it is that you are really dealing with. And so specifically as it pertains to us, you could take any number of aspects of New African Project across the centuries in this hemisphere to, enrich your understanding and create a different sense of self, So, and the journal is an instrument that you could utilize to do that.
Like you said, you created an alphabet. You kind of created your own language. You were one of the teachers.
I was. In fact, when Swahili was across the California prison system, I basically brought that Swahili back to San Quentin and required all our cadres to study it, to internalize it, to use it, to develop it. So, of course, and like I said, it got to a point to where it wasn't root memory. It was just something that was in us. I may have forgot more than I remember, but I had known so much at a particular time. If I sat down long enough, it's nothing I don't think I would be able to not express. So another thing about this Swahili thing is they used to tell us, that isn't really Swahili. And they thought that would discourage us. But insofar as this thing about Swahili that we took, first thing it was to understand, if I can understand what you're saying to me and vice versa, we got language.
Right.
Okay. So at some point in time, they were bringing individuals in that they considered to be expert to try to translate what we were talking about. They couldn't catch up. An individual tells me, this is a brother that's used every year, he trains, go to training camp trying to make the Raiders. They cut him at the end of each training camp. He's escorting me up the tube in San Quentin to visit, and he says, "Hey, Fatih." I said, "Yeah, what's happening, man?" He says, "Hey, I've been on my studies with this Swahili, and I'm having a problem with, could you, hell no." But I'm like, it's,
oh my God.
It's amusing, But it's value in the journey that we have had, and I think for that to be known would be of benefit to not only us, but the individuals that know it. They can accept it or reject it, but if you try it, just try it in a sense to where, I'm going to appreciate myself for what would be organically me, right? As opposed to some bot that you could make, and see how that makes you feel. I assume that it'll do you wonders. I stood in Pelican Bay to the hunger strike broke the program that they had. From the beginning to the hunger strike broke that program. They transferred us out of there because they didn't want us to be part of the class action. But they had solitary confinement units in Corcoran and Tadsby. They just sent us from one place to the other and told us we were no longer part of this program. That is to say, the class arm action, because we were no longer in Pelican Bay.
Wow.
But anyway, we went through that, and it harmed any number of individuals. I hear people talking about it every day. Yeah. I can honestly tell you it did, whatever it did to me, somebody else would have to tell me that. Because insofar as, like, hey man, I was in the Bay and it's like, oh, woe is me. I'm not on that tip. I was in the Bay because I knew they was trying to harm me, and that was part of the fight. So I said, if nothing else, if I'm standing up when I leave this place, I'm going to be all right. So, yeah.
Stand amongst the unbroken men.
That's right.
All right, please excuse us. We lost the beginning audio of Hashima picking up on an aspect of Fatih's comments and explaining how their response to the repression that they were receiving practicing Black August can be used as a tool of inspiration.
And how we resisted that repression. The more effective their own capacity to do so, to do the same. It may well inform someone that may be experiencing a different type of repression, but seeing and hearing our response to it, and how we were, even in those instances where they were able to separate and divide us, that didn't stop nothing. That didn't stop us. It may have retarded to the degree of development that it could be, but that didn't necessarily stop us from continuing to develop, if that makes sense. That may well inform, someone else's struggle. And if we can contribute to that, of course. Black August is unique. journal as a central tenet of Black August is both one, which focuses on self-development, i.e. your personal transformation, as well as the new person that you are going to be because of that new transformation, how you relate collectively in spaces where our people share this culture. That in and of itself should produce a degree of collective consciousness amongst our people that you can change for the better. And if you can change you for the better, the laws of dialectics dictate that you can change social conditions for the better. And the primary motive force for Black August is change. The underlying foundation of BA has always been revolution. That's progressive social change, transformational social change from one way of life which may not be viable to a more viable and life-sustaining way of life. And the journals play a central role in that process, both individually and collectively. So yes, it's vitally important.
I agree.
How did employing the journal aid you, Sister McKinney?
I think for me, it gave me a sense of accomplishment. I mean, I was telling Fatih not too long ago that I remember the first time Adam and I did BA, my perception of it, which is important for people to understand, was like what we couldn't do. Like, we can't do this, we couldn't smoke. I mean, with so many things. And that's really not that's the wrong perception. I mean, you look at it like you're trying to discipline yourself to better yourself. And the journal gives you opportunity to look back on what you achieved. And so it's an accomplishment. And I have to tell you from my own personal, I still struggle with fasting. But when I do achieve it and accomplish it, I mean, I go into it like, okay, I'm going to do it 100%. So it's really like telling yourself that you can do it and believing that you can do it. But once you've accomplished it, there's this like, oh, I did it. So you're like, yes. And that's a great feeling. That's a great feeling. And so, I mean, it's baby steps. It's the little things. But, I mean, as I indicated, I still challenge. But if I happen to fall off, as time as a Shelby, just keep going. I mean, I don't beat myself up about it because I know that it's going to help me overall, and it's going to be, it's going to be a good thing. So I just, if I mess up, I just start over again and keep going. I don't languish about it.
The primary function of the journal is to ascertain your capacity to reach your goals and the journey it took you to do so. I think for many that are new to Black August, when its observance is something that is brand new to your social life, the way you exit Black August is not the way you gonna enter Black August. It will change you. It's gonna transform who and perhaps what you are. And every year over year, you find yourself becoming a better person. At least I do. It's been my experience that I observed BA for over 32 years. And in these 32 years of observance, you could measure in light years the man I was to the man I am today. And it's primarily because I carry these tenets with me every day, 365 days, 24 hours a day. I carry these tenets with me always. They're not what I do, they're what I am. And I believe people, brothers and sisters that are new to Black August, will find if they maintain a BA journal that whatever point of their social life or whatever point of their personal development that they sought to transform, that journal will inform the process by which they made that transformation and how that that process can be applied to other aspects of their life to make their life better.
You can refer back to your journal, like, okay, I accomplished this. I used the same discipline and parallel that to something you might be having a challenge with. And as we are all saying, it's BA 365 days. So it's not just something we're going to commemorate in just the month of August. My goal is it's a lifestyle, and to preserve that and to continue growing with that every day. And if we just take a moment to look at how BA is going on throughout the country. And so that's why it's important for the California founding comrades to keep putting the information out there, because you hear hip hop, political, we've even seen politicians reference BA. So the potential for us to get it where we want it to be, to really affect our people, is definitely a possibility.
Over the course of human civilization, a people's cultural heritage, their spirit, if you will, has been found, preserved in its remembrances. This stewardship of a people's collective identity holds unique significance for the African people in America, among a rare few in the human family whose culture and identity was so deliberately and brutally stripped away from them during the primitive accumulation of capital known as the chattel slave system. For 44 years, we have observed the Black August Memorial, kept alive the remembrance of our Black August martyrs, and sought to make life better through Black August resistance. These tenets have taken root in the functional collective consciousness of New Africans across the diaspora, growing year over year, its roots deepening in the fertile soil of our aspirations, shining a little more light on the path that has been prepared by those we remember. The 45th anniversary of Black August, like a strong tree bearing new fruit, sees new souls whose lives, ideas, and aspirations have been touched by the solemn call of Black August, demonstrating, even after 44 cycles of man, there are those still seeking to know the correct way to observe the commemoration, so they too can take up its sacred tenets. Black August is both a commemoration intended to be observed collectively, as well as a very personal and intimate vehicle of self-discipline and self-improvement. Unlike intransigent and dogmatic interpretations of Black August, BAM was always intended for all of our people to be able to participate in the observance. This means that the traditional BAM program is the framework by which each man, woman, and child that chooses to engage in the observance may challenge themselves to fast, train, exercise, study, and develop themselves to whatever degree their personal will and determination is prepared to endure. It is what you determine within yourself to do at the beginning of each day of BA observance, and to what extent you have realized that determination, which is of import during Black August. The traditional Black August Memorial Program consists of no television or other screen entertainment until after 3 p.m. That consists primarily of the news. We fast. No food and minimal water from sun up to sundown. We spend at least 1 hour in study. We spend at least 1 hour in training, marksmanship, horticulture, martial arts, etc. We exercise at least once a day. We engage in some meaningful cooperative effort to improve our communities. On the 1st, BA1, Qatar. BA7, Jonathan, William James. BA13, WL, Cleveland, Allen. And BA21, George. We fast for the entire 24 hours. We observe 24 hours of wakefulness, no sleeping for the full 24. Instead of one exercise session, we exercise every 6 hours, 4 times a day, pushing our minds, our bodies, and spirits in communion with these Black August martyrs. We engage in no intoxicants, alcohol or marijuana for the entire 31 days. On August 31st, we observed the close of BAL with a collective feast. These points of traditional observance are designed to be modified to allow anyone, no matter their level of training, physical fitness, age, or medical condition, to participate in Black August Memorial to whatever degree these individual factors will allow. Black August is a sacred observance, and its tenets and purpose guide us throughout the year, not simply for the 31 days of the observance. Our people are capable of overcoming unimaginable challenges and preserving, even inspiring the world for generations to come from the lowliest, most oppressive conditions this society has to offer, prison. These truths, these sacrifices are worthy of our eternal remembrance. They are worthy of enshrining in the culture, collective identity, and daily practice of our people. On this 45th anniversary of Black August, be ever mindful that wherever we resist repression, we are acting in solidarity with the tenets of Black August. Whenever we condemn hate, we are upholding the tenets of Black August. However, we build new institutions and solutions to address the ills of society we all suffer through. We do so with the spirits of W.L. Nolan, Cleveland Edwards, Alvin Big Jugs Miller, Jonathan Jackson, William Christmas, James McClain, George Lester Jackson, and Jeffrey Katara Gordon flowing through each of us. Wherever you share the commemoration of Black August with others, or practice its tenets yourself, you further strengthen and deepen the roots of BA in the memories of our people for generations to come. Think on these things. They are cause for great meditation. That concludes my BA statement for the 45th anniversary. Go ahead, Sister Nubay.
Well, I don't want to, well, I will take a little space here. These men that we are memorializing, commemorating, W.L. Nolan, Cleveland Edwards, Alvin Jugs Miller, they were all in their 20s. These are young men. Essentially, these are our children. These are our babies, but who are standing up like men to resist their oppression and refuse to live on their knees. And because of that, they're being gunned down. They're being murdered.
Assassinated.
Thank you. Assassinated. Thank you, McKinney. Please pick up from there.
I just want to say that as we listen to, if you listen to society, I mean, the loved ones that have transitioned are the ones that are still behind, languishing in the prison system. They've been described as the worst of the worst, but clearly, for them to birth this amazing memorial it's not a bad thing. It's designed to improve and transform and just continue for our race of people, and we want to marry that with the development of the community release program, because we have to dismantle what's currently happening, and they're not going to stop in prison and kill us, our women, our babies, our children, our men. So if we continue to highlight and showcase what clearly is possible, and with Black August Memorial, Black August Resistance, it's a positive thing. And so if we can marry that with the community release program, and from that birth something that's going to help us to stay in existence, because they are trying to annihilate us, and we understand that the prison system is genocide by incarceration. I mean, it's civil death. It's all of those things. And hopefully with people being able to understand Black August, they can understand that it does not exclude them, it includes them. And that's what I think we want to bring to the forefront to the masses, that this is, even though it was birthed within the prison system, it was not designed to stay within the prison system. And that's what we are fighting and striving to happen, that we're trying to bring it out beyond the walls, and it's happening. It's happening. It is very real. It is very real. I get very protected because I know brothers that were then and there at the beginning, and so when I hear people trying to put their own twist on Black August, I mean, I've had arguments and all kinds of disagreements because it's like no, because I know what it cost. I know what it cost us, and so it's still continuing. And one other thing I want to say is I remember, like in the 80s, Black August, there was like a feeling when Black August, when we were getting ready to start commemorating. It was like an excitement. It was a healthy competition. You know, the relays and things. You know, like it was a good feeling. It was like, I can't even compare it to anything I really know now. Like, it was a good thing. It was joyous. It was like, we're gonna, and we're talking about studying and researching, and I know this, and being proud that you had put in the discipline to learn something that you may have not been able to learn, and for people to be excited about that knowledge. We have to acknowledge the fact that now in the systems, the educational system, I mean, it's not designed to better us, and we have to acknowledge and know that all of our babies are geniuses. They're just understimulated, and so we can pull that out and help them develop that through the practice of Black August.
Woo! Yes. Beautiful. Oh my God. Fatih, I wanted to just ask you, because Makini so eloquently brought up the community release program, the community release board, and making that connection, which is just so beautiful. And you are the co-author of this program. I wanted to know if you wanted to say anything about that.
Yes, I believe first that the Board of Parole Hearings is the vehicle that is being utilized to hold every prisoner in this state, in whether they are capable of functioning on the inside or out. And as it pertains to certain prisoners, they have demonstrated that once you have been identified, there is a special form of justice that is meted out. And one of those things having to do with this injustice is denial of parole. So, inasmuch as the community from which we come surrenders their sons and daughters over to the state once they have been charged as assailants as having violated the laws of the state or the collective community which make up the state. They turn them over. However, once they get them, they fall into a practice where they don't want to give them back. Kenny mentioned this act of genocide. Like these are young people, as you said, Nube, right? So, like you got to pay attention to the inability to be able to develop your child after you get him here or her here. And all of this is done under the guise of protecting the community, when in fact, as it pertains to our community, they are harming that community. So we, through the Community Release Board, believe that the community at some point in time should have a say as it pertains to their sons and daughters.
Right on.
Every sentence, life without the possibility of parole, has a minimum amount of time that an individual should be held legally, can be held. But with regard to, individuals that they have identified and classified as whatever, they will hold these people they have worn them out. And like you made reference to the fact that the individuals that we commemorate, they found their voice at a young age. And like George was 29 years old. And if you just take a moment, I don't care what your politics are, if you take a moment and listen to what he says, who would he be at 59?
That part.
He had a 1 to life. My brother had a 5 to life. He was released in 1967. So, and I think he went in something like 63, 64, right before Watts blew up.
Okay.
So, we need a community release board that can say that, we have a responsibility to ourselves, and the state also has a responsibility to us, because they said there's 59 counties in this state. Some of those counties make up our population.
Right.
So we should not surrender anything absolutely over to them.
Right.
So if they have grounds and say that you have violated the responsibilities of being a citizen in one of these counties, and they take you, charge you, try you, convict you, extradite you off to one of these institutions, just to make sure that some racist discrimination isn't going on. Once they get past these merds, if they can't see fit to do their jobs, then we should have the ability to make them turn those of ours who we want back over to us. And the Community Release Board is not like some get out of jail card. I mean, the Community Release Board is expected to behave responsibly relative to the individuals that come before them. And they should have a capacity to be able to decide whether this person can be reintegrated into these communities. Right. That should be the point that goes on at all these boards, but it isn't.
Right. Absolutely. And it's our communities that we want our people back into, not somebody else's community. So we should have a say.
Exactly.
I'd like to interject something.
Yes, please.
When we talk about like the Community Release Board, it would be essential now. So, as we all know, at least the ones on this call know, that we've recently been, I don't know if I want to call it blessed or fortunate, that we've had brothers that were released after 53 years, 50 years, 44 years. Mm-hmm. Downfall of that was there was no transition, meaning that they have been released with nothing, no ability to be self-sufficient.
Hey, I would like to say, though, money is a cause that brought many of us to this hemisphere, right? It should not be the cause that allowed them to hold us to provide income for other populations.
Indeed.
That part.
Indeed. Absolutely.
One thing that's essential to understand as it relates to the Community Release Board, the criteria for release, according to the Board of Parole hearing, is you are no longer a threat to the safety of your community. That's a double-edged sword, in that the makeup of most boards are people who ain't never set a foot in our communities. Right. While the number one stakeholder in who determines and who returns to the community is people that actually live there. So, from this perspective, the Community Release Board should be like this essential logic. If our communities are where these brothers be released to, then they should be the number one stakeholder in making that determination as to when they can be released back to that community. If they are no longer a threat to that community, they should be the one making that determination, as opposed to people who, by and large, their determination is primarily motivated by economic interest, political interest, social interest outside of what's best for that community. Oftentimes, that's their last concern. They don't give a damn about our people, care less about our communities. And for that reason, the community release board it must become an essential component.
One other thing, and a denial of parole only requires that a panel member of a board has the opinion that this person is a threat. It requires no substantiating evidence to back this up. Simply this person's opinion. You know, like you could throw a life away, you know. So, and basically what they have been doing is just that. And really, if you get down to why that is, you know, like I'm sure you would have some issue with that unless you were benefiting from it. And that's what your pockets are getting filled by it. The imbalance that exists, right, has created a situation where you see all of these blighted areas inside the state where people are having to sleep on the streets, under bridges, and you know, like you building these gulags up and down the state, right? To you know, employ people, or basically give people's tax dollars to some individuals that might not deserve it, you know.
And we should be wholly offended by that out here about how our tax dollars are being spent. We are being forced to be complicit in a genocide. I mean, thank you, McKinney, for just, you know, being just so truthful, because that is what is being experienced. They are taking our tax dollars and brutalizing people and taking all of our agency away. That's what's so beautiful about this community release program. This is what's so beautiful about Black August and its original intent.
I don't think it could be stressed enough that the U.S. criminal justice system, and particularly its mechanisms for mass incarceration, are perhaps the greatest conflicts of interest in human history. You have the individuals that you have invested with the responsibility for public safety having their individual economic gain, maximizing the number of humans that they have in some form of social control, that they have in some form of penal environment. The most powerful lobbying force in the state of California is the California Correctional Peace Officers Association.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Prison guards in the state of California are the highest paid in the nation. They got an operating budget of over $12 billion with a B. That's more than some countries' gross domestic product. They can only maintain these exorbitant extractions of the social product, and I mean people's tax dollars, by ensuring they got a mass of bodies that they can stick inside these gulags. I can't stress enough how that is a fundamental conflict of interest. They have created a racket where we have been commoditized. We are the commodity.
If anyone took the time to look at cities, industries where they are putting these prisons, they are putting these prisons where there's no industry, there's no employment, and they're creating jobs to sustain people who otherwise would not, they'd be below the poverty level. So like Pelican Bay, there was nothing there prior to...
it was a backwater.
I'm sorry?
A backwater, a lumber town.
look at
Wasn't nothing there but trees.
what was that prison they were talking about closing? Is it Susanville? But anyway, the concern was when they closed the prison that there was not going to be any jobs because there was generations of people working in the prison.
That is Susanville.
Yeah, Susanville.
No other industry. So it wasn't about anything other than the capitalist approach that they have been. People just looked at the prison industry, the labor, what they Walmart, lens crackers. I mean, you go down and down the line of industries that use prison labor, but yet, they're still paying, I don't know, what is it, 5 cents an hour or something ridiculous like that. It's still slavery, the new Jim Crow, the new 2,000-year slavery, but it's still very much a very real thing. So they keep, they're going to keep building because the criteria that they're using to imprison us is still happening.
Even though, like we kind of talking about this as New African issue affecting black folk, right? But it is interesting that before this country's Civil War, the black prison population was basically zero.
Exactly.
Now, like part of the end of this war has to do with a compromise that we never really put in context. And that's this amendment,
That exception clause.
So now, in some of our studies, when we had the BLA study guides, they were saying that the war between the states was a war over the interpretation of how capitalist development should go forward. The North felt it should be industrial. The South was a land agrarian julep class, and and they was like, hell no, we don't want to hear this. We're not going to have this labor that could move about, and it might decide to organize itself, And but anyway, and they went to war about this. And like once, like it was clear that they had to stop this, right? The real thing that comes out of that is these compromise that they made on these amendments, and we should be clear on that. We shouldn't let that slip too far from our consciousness when we thinking about these notions that they talk law and order.
To elaborate on that, America is a slave state. There's no other way to sugarcoat, water down.
Yeah.
It's a nation whose wealth and prestige rests upon the subjugation and exploitation of other humans. It's always been that way. The rationalization for slavery of any sort requires the enslaver to dehumanize the subjects of their domination. Same way that sister Sonia Maxey was dehumanized in her home. To deny or unmake our personhood as a legitimate expression of their concept of civilization.
Still, yeah.
Hey, for anybody that's out here listening who might think that we some left-wing extremists, my politics are left, but I don't really regard myself as an extremist. I would just ask you to ask what does this statement that they use about Morton at any and every opportunity they get, when he says for this country to live out the full nature of its creed, what does that mean? And that's a question you could ask yourself.
I think that that's a beautiful point at which we can pause this conversation, because circling back around the relevance of Black August Memorial, because it is in this place that we can take some time to answer those questions for ourselves, to investigate some of what we've heard today and how it can improve ourselves and our relationship with our communities and each other. And because this is going to be an ongoing conversation, as is the commemoration of Black August. Right? So I'd like for anyone to say if they have any last statements that they would like to make, but answer some of those questions for yourselves. Get to your journals. That's your action item for the day.
I would only say that anyone listening to us leave this conversation with an understanding that even though all these contrapositive social ills exist, the ultimate arbiter of whether they continue to exist is you. They can be changed. Us working in concert together can transform the very nature and structure of a society. That's all I'd like to leave y'all with.
I would like to ask, this is Lakini again, and in closing, oftentimes we hear people of our community say like Malcolm X came before his time, or Martin Luther King, or Bunchy Carter, or any of the phenomenal people that are ancestors. But I believe that they came when they were designed to. They planted the seeds for us to be able to get where we need to go as we are planting them for future generations. And we need to pay attention to that. We are descendants of kings and queens. We are great. We are amazing. And just to, tell ourselves that, remind ourselves of where we came from. Can't stop, won't stop.
That's right. Will not be stopped. Bachi, you got the last words?
Can't stop, won't stop.